Greetings, QCS build fans. Well, this is the overall wrap up for the Dark Fleet upgrade build. So we've got our AsRock X570 creator board in there. We got it all tuned and everything, and we got some performance results. So let's go ahead and go through those. So the original stock build that we had was the X470 Fatality K4 gaming board by AsRock with our 3700X, our 16 gigs of DDR4-3200 Trident memory RGB, and our Samsung Pro 980 drive and our Samsung Evo 970 Plus drive on there, with our original 3 terabyte backup drive. That has now been moved to our, I believe it's been moved to the backup server, from the right. Anyways, so the original stock results, and we'll go ahead and pop those up on the screen. So the original stock results on this machine was a 9740 on our Time Spy, 24,000 on Firestrike, 5,400 on Night Raid, 53,667. Oh, if I only got 666, I would have got that one more achievement. Dang it. I'm missing that one. So yeah, 53,667 on Skydiver, and 14.89 FPS on the PCI Express benchmark, with an overall gigabytes per second of 14.19 gigabytes per second on our PCI Express 3 bus. So overall, not bad. About anything over 9,000 is considered to be a very good machine on Time Spy. Of course, we can't run Port Royal or anything like that because we don't have a card that'll actually support ray tracing, which is fine. I don't play any games that support ray tracing, so not a big deal for me. So our max output, and which we'll show that one here. So we did, this is with a, so on that board we were stable at 4.425 gigahertz on the all-core clock. And our max overclock on our Taichi that we can get is thermally limited. If we could get it colder, we could score higher. But we're thermally limited at 2105 megahertz and 1800 megahertz on the DDR6 RAM, which is actually pretty good. 1800 megahertz on DDR6 is pretty solid. So we can't complain there, but and that's where it's stable. So yeah, you could run 2105 pretty much, 2105 and 1800 megahertz pretty much all day long without any issues, unless you run Fortnite, and then you have to turn the clock down on the GPU. So 2070 is where I would normally run the machine at, or that video card at all day long, and it works perfectly fine on everything. So, but the scores for that are 10,118 for Time Spy, 24,790 for Firestrike, 52,321 for Night Raid, 56,140 for Skydiver, and a PCI Express of 14.7 frames per second. So we actually drop a little bit, and that's probably because we're running into some PCI Express instability. So we drop a little bit there. And then our bandwidth, because we're not boosting on a single core, we're running a flat 44 25 on our CPU, our bus bandwidth drops slightly to 14.01. So, because we're not getting the boosting like we should. So that's why in gaming in particular, normally you do not want to run a flat all-core OC. Flat all-core OC is really good for productivity. So if you're crunching video compression, or if you're transcoding, or if you're doing animation, rendering, or anything like that, that's where an all-core OC comes in really handy, because then you don't have like one core that's running at, say, 4.6 gigahertz and the other core is running at, say, 3.6. That only comes in really handy in gaming, an offset like that. So anyways, moving on. So that was with the original setup. So after moving to the new setup, we actually ended up with a stock benchmark of 9600 Now the reason why I can explain the 9600 is more than likely the Fatality has a different boosting table than the Creator does. Creator is more of a workstation motherboard than it really is a gaming motherboard. So in gaming you want higher boost rates depending on your workload. On your workstations you don't. And so that was explain the almost, well, a little over 1,000 point deficit on the default scores here. So 23,054 for Fire Strike, another 1,000 point deduction. 48,065, that's almost 2,000 points. 53,298 for Skydiver, and that is only about 400 points, so that one's not so bad. And then, but with moving from now PCI Express 3 to PCI Express 4, now our frames per second on our PCI Express benchmark went to 23.51 FPS with a bandwidth of 22.41 gigabytes per second. So that's a huge difference. So I don't think it made it. Going to PCI Express 4, I don't think makes a huge difference. If we drop a second Taichi in there on Crossfire, it might make a big difference later on, because we'll be using up more of that data bandwidth. But yeah, so PCI Express 4 does not get super utilized at this point. Later iterations down the road, PCI Express 4 and later PCI Express 5 are going to be a big deal later down the road. So that was our default. So now for our overclock. Now the overclock, we were able to hold a 4.450 all-core overclock for our 3700X, which was mostly stable. It was stable for scoring. It wasn't super stable for day-to-day use. Eventually I started running into a couple of memory issues and clock timing problems and stuff like that. So I bumped it back down to the 4425. And later on we'll see, I figured out why we were running into those problems. But we were able to hold a slightly better all-core overclock. Let's see, which didn't change anything as far as anything else. So, but we'll pull our scores up for our Creator overclock, or our Creator scores with overclock, and we were at 10,382 for Time Spy, which is an improvement of over 200 points, which is a massive improvement. A lot of that, I will say, is probably not only due to the motherboard, but also due to the power supply, because we're not at the maximum limits of our power supply anymore. So we'll get cleaner power, which allows us to have fewer timing issues and memory errors overall. So yeah, so 10382, which is over 300, over 200 points improvement. Fire Strike, we actually broke 25,000 in Fire Strike, which is very good. Night Raid, we actually saw a over 500 point improvement to 52,868. Skydiver, we saw a 1,707 point improvement for Skydiver, so I put it at 57,847. And then our PCI Express test stayed about the same. Well, actually did improve over our default. So we got 27.83 frames per second with the overclock and a bandwidth gain of 26.53 gigabytes per second, which over our default settings was a difference of 4 gigabytes per second overall data bandwidth. So right there, you can tell that this upgrade was probably well worth it. So we weren't running into power issues like we were before. So we're getting nice clean power off that new power supply. But also too, we're also able to deliver far more cleaner power off our VRMs, because the VRMs on the Creator are way beefier than the VRMs on the Fatality board. So huge improvements there. However, one quirky thing we didn't note with. So with the new Trident RAM that we ordered, that was the exact same model or part number as what we had previously ordered, we ended up in a scenario where we couldn't deep tune the timings, because we actually ended up with two sticks of RAM that had Samsung chips on it, and 2 sticks of RAM that had Hynix chips on it. So because the timing personalities of these two manufacturers are totally different, we could run them at XMP or default XMP, and it ran perfectly fine. However, we couldn't deep tune the timings, so we couldn't go below CL18 because we were getting CL16 previously on the old configuration, and we were able to deep tune the timings really low. And that's one reason why we were able to crack 10 grand on TimeSpy on the old setup, because we were able to deep tune the timings super low. We were actually able to run 3600 CL16, and then 1919 36 on that. So it actually ran really low with a forward active window of about 20 or 18, I think is what we were able to run on that setup. And that's as tight as we were able to get it optimally. And that's what got us our over 10,000 score on that system. So after messing around with it a lot, I finally got the idea that I knew I had 4 sticks of DDR4-3200 Trident memory that was CL16, and I also knew it was all Samsung B-die. So, but it was in 2 other machines that I had built previously that were sitting here in inventory. So what I ended up doing is I ended up swapping the 4 B-die sticks out that were CL3200 CL16. I ended up swapping those out to replace the 3600 CL18 sticks that we had. So those I was able to deep tune. Although we did have to run them a little hotter, but we'll show the scores for that. So after the deep tune, We actually lost points on TimeSpy. TimeSpy has this one quirky little thing that it basically kind of like gives you extra points just for having a faster clock speed on your memory. And this particular set of memory, I couldn't get to overclock to 3600 and be Windows stable. So, however, we were able to deep tune the 3200 down to CL14, 34, I believe. So with the deep, the performance is about equivalent from 3600 CL16 to 3200 CL14. Later on, we might change that memory out and see if we can get some super low latency memory, so like some 14, 14, 14, and see if we can get this score up even higher. But with this run, we did crack, our CPU score in TimeSpy did crack 11,000. And it does it fairly consistently, actually, now that it did before. So we actually saw a deduction of 240 points there. Firestrike actually ended up being improved. We actually gained almost 100 points in Firestrike. Night Raid, we actually gained, let's see, Night Raid, we actually gained 600 points, a little over 600 points on Night Raid. And then on Skydiver, we actually dropped about 300 points on Skydiver. So pretty similar. The one thing, however, we were able to do is now with the 3200 RAM deep tuned, we can now run our 4450 overclock all core all day long without it crashing or having issues or bugging out or doing anything weird. So, which is awesome. It does slightly improve our transco time for our videos. Just by an extra 25 megahertz, you wouldn't think would be a lot, but it can be, especially on a workload like that. So, so right now we're actually still running the 3200, and I put the 36 in the other two machines. So hopefully later on I'll have time this month, and we'll actually go through those machines. One of them is basically sold, and the other machine is still in inventory. So if you like one, we'll throw the specs up, and you can see what it is. They're actually pretty solid machines. Probably the only weak spot is probably the video card, and the video card choice was for budgetary reasons because we were trying to keep the price under $1,000. So, but otherwise, you got plenty of headroom on the system overall to be able to drop a bigger video card in there if you wanted to later on. You could put a 2070 or a 5700 XT or something like that in there pretty easily. So, but yeah, so that's where we ended up at. So overall, I'm very happy with the overall build. Like I said, it was a very good upgrade, very much needed for what we were doing. And so later on, we're gonna get a 5950X. I don't know when. Hopefully it's before the end of the year. It'd be awesome if it was, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. So right now it's on back order. We'll get it when we get it at this point. So stay tuned, like, share, subscribe, and we'll let you know when that happens, and we'll show some much bigger scores when we double our thread count. So, so yeah, so this has been a fun one. Again, like, share, subscribe. Like I said it in the previous, the Epic Roundup build, or video, the channel is doing very well. It's doing way better than I anticipated it doing. So couldn't tell you why at this point, other than the fact that it seems like our biggest videos have actually been the Epic server build, the two of the Epic server build videos, and the mini AsRock industrial 4x4 box, bare bone. Those were our three most popular builds. So we're probably going to try and focus a little more on doing some big builds like that. Seems like there's a real need out there in the community for more business-oriented type of builds. So yeah, so we're going to see if we can focus on that a little bit and see if we can get a few of those. I'm looking at getting a AsRock Industrial Mars unit. I'm also looking at possibly maybe a AsRock Industrial 4500U, which is the second version of the 4x4 box. It's not quite 4x4 anymore, it's like 5x7. So, but looking at probably getting one of those. There's also a possibility we're going to do like a big Threadripper build for a network video recorder system to upgrade a camera system that we deployed this year and needs a bigger NVR system attached to it because we're running out of CPU usage, even though it has a 2700X in it. So yeah, so we got to go bigger on that one too. So so again, stay tuned, like, share, subscribe. We really need subscribers at this point. The more subscribers we get, the more the views are going to grow, and our watch hours are actually doing quite well. So well, hopefully we will hit profitability faster than I originally planned on. So thank you for watching. That's it for now, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.